Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder with your host, Mike Haltman. It's the podcast that will answer your questions about many of the things in life we've always wanted to know more about. Our guests, experts in their chosen field, will enlighten us about subjects ranging from real estate, business, career, science, philanthropy, and much more. Proudly presented by Hallmark Abstract Service, it is once again time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride on our information superhighway. And now, here's Mike Haltman.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? My name is Mike Haltman. I will be your host today. One of my greatest pleasures, in addition to being the CEO of Hallmark Abstract Services, is running this podcast, because I get to meet and speak to so many great and interesting people who do a wide variety of spectacular things. So this week actually will be the second week in a row we're going to be talking about, well, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but one is networking. So last week was a very unique type of networking group that works basically solely on social capital. It forbids business cards. It has curated events. It's by invitation only, and just a fascinating concept. And today we also have a fascinating concept, and we will introduce our guest in a few minutes. But basically, I've been a member of this group for probably 5 years, 6 years. I call it kind of a hybrid type of networking. It's partially online, it's partially in person. It utilizes a listserv as a way of communication, but also as a way for members to really promote themselves on specific dates, although not everyone is great at nailing their specific date. But like all networking groups, it's a trusted group of professionals. And that's what you really need to make networking work, is to have people you can count on, rely on, refer to, get information from, and really know, like, and trust, which is really one of the basic tenets of networking. So one other thing, and I'll have to talk with our guest. I almost named her at another time, but it's a very reasonably priced resource. I used to call diners good food at a good price. That's no longer the case. Diners are now like going to a 5-star restaurant. But this group is definitely a value. And in a world where value is not always available, this is. So I would like to welcome our guest, Adrian Miller. And welcome, Adrian.
Thank you so much. I've never quite heard Adrian Miller or Adrians Network and Diner in the same sentence, but yes, and I agree with you. It is often now that bill is like, are you kidding me?
I know. I went out the other day. I had an egg white omelet. It was $18.
I know. Yeah, but yes, so we're definitely more we're the diner of old days.
But your group is called Adrians Network, and you currently have about 400 members?
Yeah, I think 350 or thereabouts, and I tend to use the word community.
Okay.
I know it's semantics, I get it, but having started Adrian's Network, after being the president of a couple of groups and on the board of a couple of groups and being a member of a lot of groups, I decided to take all the things I really liked about the groups, bits and pieces, and dispense with things that I just found problematic. And I created something that worked for me, and I hoped it worked for other people. It seems to, but it was based on so many years of being involved in networking. We actually using networking as the tool to help me grow my businesses. No advertising or anything like that, certainly minimal, and SEO and all that for websites. So networking was a very powerful tool, because I started my businesses before all the social media platforms. You know, LinkedIn was not there. Mark Zuckerberg was in diapers. So there you go. So how'd you build business? Networking.
Well, let me ask you, because that begs the question, and I think I can guess the answer before I ask the question. But what parts of networking groups didn't you particularly enjoy?
Um, I always felt, and I felt this about a lot, or feel like this way about a lot of things. When I do something, I kind of commit to it. No one can make me do anything. Okay. You can fine me, you can whine at me, you can nag me, but I want to do it. I make a commitment to something. I never did much with my kids when they were in school. Like, you have to do your homework. You have to do your homework because that's your responsibility. I went to school already. If you want to screw it up, if you want to wind up not passing, knock yourself out. It's not going to make me happy, but I already did it and I was successful at it. So I don't like someone kind of babysitting my activities. I didn't like groups that were super, super, super expensive. And it wasn't because of the financial exposure or anything like that. What I thought when I joined my first group that was super expensive, I thought I'd have a much higher caliber of member. No, that didn't make them better networkers. And often what was the case is their bill for their networking involvement came from some corporate entity.
Right. So they know skin in
And
the game.
no skin in the game. Being in a higher ticket group, I kept hearing, oh, you're going to get higher caliber people, real decision makers. It didn't work that way for me. So I didn't like having to spend, I had a $10,000 budget for networking at a
Okay.
time when it was 10,000 was worth more than it is today. It's still a
Yeah.
large number. And I found that some of the larger groups or the more expensive groups, I didn't get any more ROI than I did from one group was free. And it was just a bunch of us who kind of started it together. We met in someone's office in Manhattan every other week, super casual. You want something to eat, bring your own breakfast, bring a cup of coffee, whatever you want. Small. What we didn't vet, we vetted each other by saying to someone, hey, Mike, step up to the plate, man.
Okay. And that put up or shut up.
Yeah, and it was real effective. We would get in there and start talking about, okay, here's what I'm working on this week, and here's where I can probably make an introduction, but this one I can because it's too new. I'm a little. Let me get myself entrenched enough to make an intro.
Right.
It was very brass tacks. It was very effective, and so when I saw that could happen, the big ticket items, big ticket groups didn't really work so much for me. What else didn't I like?
Well, probably the structure, perhaps.
I didn't mind. I wanted more flexibility. I needed to have a big smorgasbord of different things and opportunities so that I would be able to have the chance to participate in the way that seemed to work for me. Because even back then, when I joined, I have, happily enough, very robust businesses. And my core business is very hands-on for me. It's not like I can, I have to be there. I have to do it. People are paying and buying me. The truth is. So if you're always meeting in a specific day and it's a very regular schedule, I could have a client that has signed me on for 4 weeks without much. I just finished this 2 days a week for 7 weeks, 2 full days, 7 weeks in a row, no ifs, ands, and buts, 60 or 70 people involved in training, very profitable.
So you got to be there.
You got to be there. I mean, I'm a business person. I'm a businesswoman. You got to be there. And so but it didn't mean I didn't want to network. So I liked the fact and there were other groups that did it too, that I had multiple opportunities. And I could be digital if I had to be. I could be on site if I had to be. The listserv, which I can find can be very valuable. There was a website. There was different. There were also other events, not just meetings. There were social things. Should you be inclined to do that kind of stuff? And I put it all together, and it seems to be working.
Well, how many years have you been in
I
business?
think it's 12 years now.
So it's obviously working. I think, I mean, I see the attachment that members have to you. So you create a
Community.
that's right. It's not networking, it's a community. But, you know, I
Yeah.
think one of the problems with a lot of structured groups is that, you know, you tend to get a lot of takers, not as many necessarily givers. And, you know, I think in your community, you don't necessarily, that's not necessarily an issue because you're not really bound by, you know, you're in this group with 20 people and, you know, 15 are takers, and that's not a good ratio. But
Yeah. I think in networking, it's a big bell-shaped curve. There are people who are just horrible at it. They were told it's effective. Someone told them they should do it. They join things, but it's not their natural space. They don't really like it. They don't understand it. They've been taught it, but they still don't care. For whatever reason, they're just not very good at it.
well, it takes work for
And,
one.
yes, and it absolutely takes work. And then there are people who are just intrinsically very, very good at it. That's what they like to do, and they're good at it, and they're willing to work at it. They're people oriented, etc. And there's the big part in the middle of the bell. And you know, they're pretty good. They're a little more reactive than they should be. The idea of being a proactive networker is beyond some people's comprehension, not because they're stupid, but the idea that you can put two people together without either one of them asking to meet the other person. No one says, Adrian, do you know, and, or I shouldn't say no one. People ask me that, but not that as frequently as I make introductions.
Right.
And when someone say, do you know, and I introduce them to someone, that's not really networking. That's the lowest hanging fruit you can possibly do. I'd much prefer putting people together because they both work with small companies. They provide different services or products, so they're not competition.
Right.
They deal with the same type of decision maker. So they should be able to help each other more than I could help either of them.
In essence, what you're saying, if you feel there are synergies between two people,
Right.
you
Right.
will try and put them together, which is the essence of being
Yeah.
a good networker. You
Yeah.
always have to be thinking.
Yeah, it's not really a good networker isn't waiting for somebody to say, do you know a web designer? Well, of course I know web designers. I probably know 500 web designers. But I would prefer to introduce the web designer who tends to work in real estate companies and doing a lot of things in those type of organizations with somebody who does something else with those types of companies and see how they can help each other, probably more than I can help them on my own. So
You got to be a little more less introspective as a good networker and a little more, what's the opposite of introspective? Outrospective. Made that up.
I also think you said a good word, working. You have to work at it. So I set aside probably, I don't have a lot of time, but I would say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, usually early in the morning. It's when I do my LinkedIn posts. I do everything early. And I'll proactively make introductions. I'll just, I will go through my database and say, oh my God, I didn't introduce these two people. How silly am I? They should know each other. And I'll make introductions, and then, and then I'll start the rest of my day.
The magic notes.
but I do make a point of it. It seems easier for me to do it that way because just like everybody else, I have very crazy busy days. So I put that as a line item and something I have to accomplish that day, much the same if I'm writing content for a client. Well, I have an editorial calendar. I've got to write their content. Or if I'm designing sales training, I've got to, design the templates and design the content. And if I'm at a client's office or on Zooms, when this whole couple of years took a while to get back in person, when you're doing training or consulting, you can't do anything else because there's, 30 people on a screen looking at you, or you're standing in the client's office. It's not like you're saying, excuse me, I've got to go do some work for somebody else or answer my network.
That would be bad form.
Be very bad form. You wouldn't have much business. So.
Absolutely. But I know that, I'm the president of a networking group, and you need to try and this is a question I also had for you, but you need to try and grow. So you need to try and bring guests, and you need to try and reach out to people and try and inspire them to meet and learn about the value that you might provide. But it's very hard to get some people to actually do the work necessary to get that done.
Yeah, it is. And I'm a little bit derelict in a lot of the things you mentioned because I am really busy with this other stuff. I think the people who are not active, maybe a small percentage of them, if I held their hand a lot, would become more active. But I have done, for some folks have done just that. And the second I step back, because I taught you how to walk, and so now I don't have to keep holding your hand as you're walking, they still need that. And I don't have the time, or I don't even have the inclination to do it, and I wouldn't do it very effectively.
Well, I think people need to take a little
Initiative?
responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Initiative, good too.
Yeah, I think that, again, ASNet has a huge smorgasbord of offerings, okay? You don't have to eat from every food group. You can do one or the other. But if you do nothing, zero, I'm going to say it would be remarkable to me if anything came back. However, so here's what I mean about doing zero. There are people, and I know this because I know them, have never gone to a meeting. They've never put something out on a spotlight. They've basically been completely under the radar screen. But what they have done, unbeknownst to me, they went, because I don't want everyone to keep telling me if they did something and blew their nose and stuff. I'm not your mommy. I'm not your networking mommy. Do not tell me you went, blew your nose. They've gone to the profiles, the directories, and they've called people up or whatever, emailed and called. They've connected through the directories and they cherry picked, and lo and behold, they got business.
Right.
Awesome. Awesome.
You do whatever you think will work. And
yeah. And so that's always feels good to have people do that, and I'm happy for them because I'm happy they took that initiative and it resulted in something positive. And that's good. I mean, it's like anything you do. If you don't, the return is usually somewhat equivalent to what you put out there.
Well, you want some modicum of payback for the work that you do. And like you said, if you do no work, then your modicum of payback might be zero.
So back to ASNet being very cost effective. So I have talked to some people who have done little to nothing. And but here's why they're a member. This was interesting to me. Someone said to me, I have Adrian's Network kind of it's like a combination insurance policy and a personal concierge. Because if I want or need anything, I put it out there and people will send me pretty much pre-vetted. And to me, people have said, that's worth the minuscule cost. And the other thing people say, it's worth it just sending out their spotlight because they couldn't do anything else for that little amount of money. And so they send it out and it goes to X number of people, hundreds of people. And it's like, they feel like they did their marketing that day.
There's no question that, and I've said this as well. You weren't talking about me, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. That it is fantastic if I need something that I know where I can go and get something.
And people are careful who they recommend,
absolutely.
You know, because they don't want it. They don't want to. It's a fellow member. They don't want to screw up.
Yep.
And so people are careful. And I've asked for myself, and people ask for person. And so here's the thing. This goes back a long time ago. Somebody asked, they were going to have their house painted, their home painted. And they asked if anyone had a recommendation for a painter. So someone sent me an email and was very like, I didn't think it was this kind of group. It's not supposed to be personal. And I wrote back, I said, I can appreciate your feelings. However, for that painter, that is their business.
Right.
That's how they put food on the table. Right. We're not, it's their business. They're a very large painting contractors.
Yeah.
So it is their business. It's all business.
Did that member understand from that
explanation? He did, but they just, they hadn't thought about it that way. They just saw that someone wanted their home painted. And didn't realize that they were looking for people. And even if they weren't going to the huge painting contractors, even if they were looking at for one woman or guy, that's their business too.
100%. No, that's 100%. You are right. One of the, when you refer somebody, and you really do need to feel, that's the whole know, like, trust thing. If you're going to put yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there by recommending someone else, and you really have to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very careful about my recommendation.
Well, I just had a hip replacement, and somebody asked me who my surgeon was, and it's like, I didn't necessarily want to refer them because, if something goes wrong, that's bad. But I did, and everything was fine.
So here's the thing. I think when I do it a couple ways. Number one, just because you refer someone, it's like setting up a blind date. Doesn't mean they're going to get married. Okay. They may not even like each other. So for business things, I often, especially if it's in one of those categories and I know a ton of people, or I really know multiple people who are excellent, I will say, here are 3 resources. You have to feel a comfort working with them. You have to bond with them. I may like someone and you may not, etc. But I would say all of these are good. If I only know one person in a very unique category, I will say that. I will say, I don't have other people to suggest. It's not like I'm getting a commission or something. I just don't know other people, but I have worked with them, or I have heard that they are very good at what they do. I will often say, if please understand, I haven't worked with them directly. As for medical, that's very interesting. And I may need a hip replacement. I may talk to you. I think we all, sometimes I've been asked for referrals for medical people too. And I'll go, of course, I'm giving you my experience.
Right.
You just hope people are sensible. And I recommended one person a long time ago, and the person I recommended it to, they didn't even work together, but it was in that initial phone conversation there was immediate dislike. One of them didn't like the other person's
personality.
They thought they were too this or too that. That's fine.
Right.
It's a big world. And I said that when they came back to me, I said, I think they're kind of funny. You think they're kind of obnoxious. and you wouldn't want to work with them because you think they're kind of obnoxious. They're very excellent at what they do, but I can understand you don't want to work with someone who's obnoxious. You know, I get
Different
it.
different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, totally, totally. You can't marry everybody.
No, you can't. But let me ask you something. So, in the time we have left, you're also a sales trainer.
Yeah.
So, and you've authored books on the subject.
Yes.
So, I have a couple of questions because we're all in sales. Whatever it is
Yes.
we do, we're all in sales. In
Yes.
particular, I am in sales. But what do you see for the most part? What's the biggest impediment to sales success that you typically find in people? What's the personality?
It's personality aside, the biggest impediment to success is a few things. One, you said the word working. Some people don't honestly want to work as hard as they have to. Two is people they don't have any kind of touch point management plan unless you work in something that's one touch and the customer, the prospect makes a decision. You pretty much, like for my business, I will have to circle around this business opportunity many different times and ways. And you have to have a plan of attack on that. Otherwise, you'll fall off their radar screen. And if you keep checking in and touching base, they'll never want to speak to you again the rest of their lives. So some of us, and even with referral sources, if you want to stay on top of mind for a referral source, you also have to be strategic about how you continue to be visible. And that's a very big mistake. People don't do that enough or at all, and they lose a huge amount of opportunities.
Let me ask you this. So I have in my business, we have prospects, and our prospects are typically attorneys.
Yep.
And you don't want to be a pain in the ass. And I understand the check-in thing. So what techniques do you recommend to people to stay in front of them?
Okay. 3 eyes. Okay. And I've worked with tons of law firms and know lots of attorneys, as of course we do. But I've also done work in law firms and have trained them and consulted with them. And in doing that, I really get the inside scoop from what's going on. So you have to, whether it's attorneys or not, you have to add value to the relationship before there's a relationship. And it can't always be selling yourself or you have anything for me kind of stuff. So one, if you can make an introduction, like an attorney to another attorney who may not do what they do, or the attorney to a managing partner of an accounting firm, whoever would add value to them, and make those very proactively. Joe meets Sue, Sue meets Joe. Gee, guys, I'm surprised you don't know each other. I think you two should have a conversation. There's some potential opportunities you can look at. Love that. Invite them to things, even if you think they were invited already. That's okay, because you want to get on their radar screen. Hey, this is going to be a great event. The speaker's awesome. I know some really good people who are going to be there. Just wanted to make sure you knew about it. If you were going to be there, you could say, P.S. I'm going to be there. If you'd really like to, if you'd like to meet up with me there, that would be great. And information, we all have access to TED Talks and newsletters and videos. And I will do a little bit of research on a particular topic that seems to be very timely and very interesting, et cetera, and send someone a link to a TED Talk and say, I think this TED Talk was fabulous, or this author really nailed it on this, and send it to them. You're just trying to add value and stay visible.
Well, it's all about the value. So even if the things that you do, because I do a lot of what you just said, even if the person isn't interested in the value that you're offering, you're still offering it, and you're still in front of them. So that's the pay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten emails back from somebody or some people, not somebody, where I've invited them to something and the email will be, wow, thanks so much for thinking of me and letting me know about this event. Unfortunately, I can't go. I have something else at night or whatever it is, but thanks for thinking of me. Bingo. I'm like excited, the information is really good also. And, I'll send it out and say, I'm sure you know about this. However, that kind of thing. So yeah, staying on the grid is really important. And people, you don't get any return on the time that you've spent if you don't do that. I mean, if you dealt with them and then let them fall away and forget about you,
I
it's like
agree.
you kind of wasted your time and wasted your money.
That's why I have a whiteboard in my office with names,
Yeah.
you know,
I
and
think LinkedIn is a good way to stay visible if you have good stuff to put up there, and you cultivate. I mean, I'm not a LinkedIn coach. I think something's wrong. It's terrible. Someone's going to probably hate me for saying this. I think this is wrong when you need to have so many coaches talking about the same platform. I'm like concerned, like we're all smart people. I should be able to get it already.
right.
But it is a good tool. I don't think you have to spend your whole life on it, your whole day on it, but it is a good tool to stay visible also. Again, by adding value,
Right.
by adding value. What else do people not? Oh, people, why they don't sell as well as they should, is to continue to remind people about what makes you different. There's so much competition out there, and the benefits of your point of differentiation. See, people only go so far. What makes me different is, or our clients tell us what makes us different is. That's great. Sounds awesome. But it sounds much better if you say what that means to you is, or ensuring you of, or therefore you'll be able to.
That's so I try and add value on social media, but I end each one with our differentiating points. So I always, yeah, you have to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, and I don't want people to think that I'm asking you these questions just for me, but the answers are great. The answers are
And
great.
these are kind of standard questions. They really are standard questions. And as much, I've been doing this for a real long time, Mike,
Oh,
and a real long time, and a vast diversity of clients. But some things are very consistent over all these years, and some things are certainly very consistent over all these different types of companies. Everyone wants to believe or thinks they are incredibly unique. Um, and that may be true, but if you can't communicate that effectively, and if you think your business is 1000% different than anyone else's in the entire world, you're probably not accurate.
right, right. But you have to take those snippets of differentiation and promote them, and that's very important. So,
Yeah.
what um, what traits in people would prevent them from being a good salesperson? So, there are certain traits that are important, but what traits will hold people back? Inner demons, so to speak.
Well, the more than inner demon, if you're not curious, the biggest thing you can do, the biggest success tactic for sales is asking a lot of questions. If you ask the right questions, people will tell you what they need, why they need it, when they need it, how they need it, who else they're looking. I mean, they'll tell you everything you need. So if you're not curious and you don't have the ability to ask questions, something's holding you back from doing that, whether it's a pomposity that you know everything already, or a lack of confidence. I mean, if you think that if I ask a certain question, they're never going to do business with me, you never were going to get that business anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, salespeople are usually have a certain degree of confidence. Some things can be trained, but you don't have to be extroverted. You can be introverted, but you have to be confident. You have to be comfortable with yourself.
Right.
If you're not comfortable with yourself, the person you're talking to is not going to be comfortable with you either. So if you can be introverted. It's okay. Everyone says, "Oh, but you're so extroverted. It must be so easy." It doesn't matter. You can be a very impactful salesperson and be introverted, but confident, curious, persistent. You can't give up. I mean, you have to be persistent in pretty much anything you do to be really successful at it for the long haul. But sales is one of those things that that's absolutely true. And you have to really like it. I mean, sales is a great thing. You control your own destiny. It's very measurable. It enables you to absolutely, if you believe in your product or service, to help people.
Definitely.
To help people get what they need, what they want, to get them from point A to point B, assuming you're not scamming them, you're helping people.
And I think you also have to be a good listener. Would you say that's
yes, because if you ask all the questions and don't listen to the answer, that would be a problem.
Correct. Yeah, that's
Right.
true. That's true. So now let me ask you a question. If someone was interested in learning more about Adrian's Network, how would they do it?
They could go to adriansnetwork.com because that gives you all the information. And as importantly, it gives you my email and phone number. So if you have any other questions, because I do get a lot of calls about it. I think people, we're on websites for like 20 seconds and then we're off, So, and people call me up all the time with the exact same questions of what's on the site. And I used to get cranky about that, and I don't anymore. I really don't. I completely understand it. So Adrian's Network is easy site. It's purposely, it's not very complicated anyway. Some people make all this super complicated. I'm not a complicated person.
No, it's definitely not complicated.
So you just go on it. All your answers are there. How much it costs is there. How often we meet. The calendar's there for the whole year. Now half a year, because we're up to half a year, and some pictures. The only thing you can't access is the directory, because there have been people who have initially we didn't have it locked down, and then people were getting hit on by people who just troll.
The same people who go to a networking event and just hand out cards.
Absolutely. And or on LinkedIn, and you get a direct message from them, and the direct message isn't, "Gee, I'd like to learn more about you," or "Let's talk," or "Let's connect," or "I see synergies," anything. All it is buy something. Right. It's a direct sale.
Right. Well, so unfortunately and incredibly, our time is coming to an end, but this was great. I would highly recommend anyone who's interested should definitely check out the website. It's definitely worth it. And I hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day.
All right, you too. And let's see.
Thanks for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And if there's a subject that's always been on your mind, let us know. We hope you'll join us next time for the show that answers your questions. And please like and share this episode with your friends and on your social media. See you next time.